Hey, my name is Jake. I'm 26. 3 months ago, I was just a guy who cleaned office buildings at night, invisible to everyone who mattered. Then, one rainy Thursday, I knocked on the corner office door and she looked up from her computer. This beautiful, married executive with tired eyes and a wedding ring she kept twisting around her finger. The smell of her expensive perfume mixed with fresh coffee and the sound of rain against 42nd floor windows. When her husband showed up unexpectedly and asked who I was, she said, "He's just the cleaning guy." But the way she looked at me when she said it told a different story. If you're watching this right now, tell me where you're from in the comments, because I still don't know if what we did was wrong. I never thought I'd be the guy telling this story. But here I am, 3 years later, still thinking about her every time it rains. My name's Jake. I was 26 then, working nights cleaning offices in Manhattan. Not glamorous, but it paid the bills. Most buildings were empty by the time I showed up at 10 p.m. with my cart and supplies. Just me, the hum of computers left running, and the city lights bleeding through floor-to-ceiling windows. The 42nd floor of the Meridian Tower was my last stop every Thursday night. Corporate offices, marketing firm, usually dead quiet by the time I got there, except that one rainy Thursday in October. I pushed my cart off the elevator, keys jingling, expecting the usual darkness. But there was light coming from one of the corner offices, the big one, executive suite. I almost turned around. Protocol was to come back if someone was still working. But something made me stay. Maybe it was the way the light looked so lonely against all that black glass. Maybe it was curiosity. I knocked softly on the doorframe. "Sorry, didn't know anyone was still here." She looked up from her computer, dark hair pulled back, designer glasses catching the screen's glow. Beautiful in that polished, untouchable way that successful women have. Like she'd stepped out of a magazine about careers I'd never understand. "It's fine," she said, not really looking at me. "I'll be here a while longer." Her voice was softer than I expected, tired. "I can come back." "No, please. Don't change your schedule because of me." I hesitated in the doorway. She was wearing a cream-colored blouse, sleeves pushed up. No wedding ring visible, but there was a pale line on her finger where one usually sat. "I'm Jake," I said, not sure why. She glanced up then, really looked at me for the first time. "Rachel." The rain was getting heavier outside. I could hear it against the windows, 42 floors up. The kind of storm that makes you grateful to be inside, but also makes you feel small. I started cleaning the outer offices, trying to be quiet. Every few minutes, I'd catch her in my peripheral vision. She'd stopped typing and was just staring out at the city. Her shoulders looked tense, like she was carrying something heavy. When I finished the conference room, I knocked on her door again. "Coffee machine's empty," I said. I was about to make a fresh pot. "Want some?" She blinked like she'd forgotten where she was. "That's... yes, thank you." I brought her a cup 20 minutes later. Good coffee, not the usual office sludge. She wrapped both hands around the mug like she was cold. "Working late?" I asked, immediately feeling stupid. Obviously, she was working late. "Big presentation tomorrow," she said. "Or today, technically. It's after midnight." I glanced at the clock. She was right. "Important one?" She laughed, but there wasn't much humor in it. "They're all important. That's the problem." I should have left then, gone back to my cleaning, but something about the way she said it made me stay. "Sounds stressful." "It is." She took a sip of coffee and looked at me over the rim. "You don't have to pretend to care about corporate presentations." "I'm not pretending." She studied my face for a moment, like she was trying to figure out if I was real. "Most people just keep walking. Most people are idiots." That got a smile. A real one. You might be right about that. We talked for maybe 10 more minutes. Nothing deep. Just easy conversation. The kind you have with someone you'll never see again, so it doesn't matter what you say. Except I did see her again. The next Thursday, same time. She was there when I arrived, hunched over spreadsheets. I made coffee without asking and brought her a cup. Rough week? I asked. Always is. But she smiled when she said it. And when I left that night, she said, "See you next week, Jake." It became a routine. Thursday nights, I'd find her there. We'd talk for a few minutes while she drank coffee, and I pretended to organize my cleaning supplies. She'd tell me about difficult clients and impossible deadlines. I'd tell her about the weird things I found in office buildings after hours. "You found a what?" She laughed one night. "A mannequin, in the accounting department, dressed in a suit, sitting at a desk. That's creepy?" "Yeah." I was going to say sad. Someone's probably been using it to practice presentations. That was Rachel, always seeing the human side of things. It was the third Thursday when I noticed the tension in her shoulders had gotten worse. She was rubbing her neck, wincing. "You okay?" "Just stress. It's been a long month. I should have left it alone. But my mom had chronic back problems, and I'd learned a few things about muscle tension over the years. You want me to take a look? Sometimes it's just a knot." She froze, coffee cup halfway to her lips. "I... what? Sorry, that was... I didn't mean..." I could feel my face burning. "I just meant... never mind." "No, it's..." She set down the cup. "It's just been a long time since anyone offered to help with something like that." The way she said it made something twist in my chest. "Your husband doesn't..." Her laugh was bitter. "My husband thinks stress is a choice, something weak people do." I didn't know what to say to that. "Anyway," she said quickly, "I should let you get back to work." But she didn't look away, and I didn't move. "The offer stands," I said quietly. "If you ever... you know." She nodded once, very slowly. "Thank you." The next Thursday, she was gone. Empty office, dark windows. I told myself it didn't matter, that I'd been stupid to think our little coffee talks meant anything. But the Thursday after that, she was back. "Missed you last week," I said, trying to keep it light. "Business trip. Chicago." She paused. I missed being here too." Something had changed. I could feel it in the air between us, like the moment before lightning strikes. I made coffee, brought her a cup. Our fingers brushed when she took it, and neither of us pulled away immediately. "Jake." "Yeah." "That offer you made, about my neck." My heart started beating faster. "Yeah." "Would you still..." I set down my coffee cup with hands that weren't quite steady. "If you want." She turned in her chair, away from the computer, hair falling loose from its ponytail. I could smell her perfume, something light and expensive. I moved behind her chair, trying to ignore how small the space suddenly felt. "Where does it hurt?" "Right here." She touched the base of her neck, just above her collar. I placed my hands on her shoulders, feeling the tension immediately. She was wound tight as a wire. "Jesus, Rachel, how long have you been carrying this around?" "Months, maybe years." I started working on the knots, gentle at first, then with more pressure when she didn't pull away. Her breathing changed, got deeper. "Better?" I asked after a few minutes. "Much." Her voice was softer now, almost a whisper. I should have stopped, stepped back, but my hands seemed to have their own ideas, working their way from her shoulders to the base of her neck. She made a small sound, not quite a sigh. "Jake." "Too much?" "No, not too much." When I finally stopped, She turned to face me. We were too close, way too close for a boss and the guy who cleaned her office. "Thank you," she said. "Anytime." The word hung between us like a promise neither of us was ready to make. That's when we heard it. The soft ding of the elevator arriving on our floor. Rachel's eyes went wide. She spun back to her computer, fingers flying over the keyboard like she'd been working the whole time. "Shit," she whispered. Heavy footsteps in the hallway, getting closer. A man appeared in the doorway, tall, expensive suit, the kind of confidence that comes with never having to worry about money. He looked at me, then at Rachel. "Working late again, sweetheart?" His voice was warm, but there was something cold in his eyes when he looked at me. "Tom." Rachel's voice was carefully neutral. "What are you doing here?" "Thought I'd surprise you. Bring you home." He stepped into the office, taking up space like he owned it, which, judging by the way Rachel suddenly looked smaller, maybe he did. "This is Jake," she said. He cleans the offices." "Nice to meet you, Jake." Tom's handshake was too firm, too long. "Don't let us keep you from your work." It wasn't a suggestion. I gathered my supplies, avoiding Rachel's eyes. When I reached the door, I glanced back once. She was staring at her computer screen, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. All the progress we'd made was already gone. "Have a good night," I said. She didn't look up. I took the long way home that night, walking through the rain instead of catching the subway, trying to figure out what the hell I was doing. Rachel was married, rich, successful, everything I wasn't, and I was falling for her. The next Thursday, she wasn't there. I told myself it was for the best. Whatever had been happening between us needed to stop before it went too far. But I missed her. Missed the way she laughed at my stupid stories. Missed the way she looked when she forgot to be professional for a few minutes. I was mopping the conference room when I heard the elevator. Late, even for her. Almost 2 a.m. She appeared in the doorway like a ghost, still in work clothes, but rumpled, like she'd been somewhere else first. "Hey," she said. "Hey yourself. Rough night." She laughed, but it sounded hollow. "You could say that." I didn't ask, but she told me anyway while I made coffee and pretended not to notice the way her hands were shaking. We had dinner, Tom and I, first time in months we've been alone together. She paused. He spent the entire meal talking about his golf game and his promotion. When I mentioned the Henderson account we landed, he changed the subject. "I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm used to it." She took the coffee cup with both hands. "Do you know what he said when I told him I'd been working late?" I shook my head. He said maybe if I was more efficient, I wouldn't need to stay so long. The anger that shot through me was sudden and sharp. He doesn't know what he's talking about, doesn't he? She looked up at me. Maybe he's right. Maybe I'm just making excuses to avoid going home. "Are you?" She didn't answer right away, just stared out at the city lights. "I used to love him," she said finally. "Or I thought I did. But somewhere along the way, I became just another thing on his schedule, between golf and client dinners and whatever else fills up his time. You deserve better than that." "Do I?" She turned to face me. "I'm 38 years old, Jake. I've been married for 12 years. This is my life. It doesn't have to be." The words were out before I could stop them. Too honest, too much. Rachel stared at me, the coffee cup forgotten in her hands. "What are you saying?" I should have backed down, made some excuse about just being a good listener. But looking at her in that moment, seeing the loneliness she tried so hard to hide, "I'm saying you matter. Your work matters, your feelings matter. And anyone who can't see that is an idiot." She set down the coffee cup with hands that were definitely shaking now. "Jake, I know. I know what you're going to say. I'm just the cleaning guy. You're married. It's complicated. It is complicated. I know, but that doesn't make it less true. We stared at each other across the small space between us. The rain had started again, drumming against the windows 42 floors up. This is crazy, she whispered. Yeah, we can't. I know. But neither of us moved away. That's when her phone buzzed. A text message. She glanced at it and her face went pale. Tom, she said. He's wondering where I am. Reality crashed back in. The spell was broken. You should go, I said. She nodded, gathering her things. But at the door, she stopped. Jake. Yeah. Next week, will you be here? I should have said no. Should have told her it was better if I switched buildings, changed my route. Instead, I said, where else would I be? She smiled then. The first real smile I'd seen from her all night. See you next Thursday. After she left, I sat in her chair and stared out at the storm, knowing I was in trouble, knowing this couldn't end well, but also knowing that for the first time in years, I was looking forward to Thursday night. Some lines, once you cross them, you can never uncross. We hadn't crossed anything yet. Not really. But we were walking right up to the edge. And part of me was terrified we were going to jump. 23:9. The week felt longer than usual. I caught myself thinking about her at weird times, while stocking cleaning supplies, riding the subway, eating dinner alone in my studio apartment. Thursday couldn't come fast enough. She was there when I arrived, but something was different. She looked up when I walked in, and there was something in her eyes I hadn't seen before, like she'd made a decision. Hey, I said, trying to keep my voice normal. Hey. I went through my usual routine, cleaned the outer offices, made coffee, but the whole time I could feel her watching me. When I finally brought her a cup, she was sitting back in her chair instead of hunched over her computer. Slow night? I asked. I finished early. She paused. I wanted to talk to you. My heart started beating faster. About. She gestured to the chair across from her desk. Sit. I'd never sat in her office before. It felt weird, wrong somehow, like I was crossing into territory I didn't belong in. Jake, she said, once I was settled. What you said last week. I shouldn't have said it. No, you should have. She leaned forward. No one's talked to me like that in years, like I'm a person instead of just a function. You are a person. I know that, but I'd forgotten what it felt like to be seen that way. The rain was starting again outside, softer this time, but steady. I've been thinking, she continued, about what you said, about deserving better. I waited. I married Tom when I was 26, fresh out of business school, ready to conquer the world. He was already successful, established. I thought that's what I wanted. What do you want now? She looked at me for a long moment. I want someone to ask me how my day was and actually listen to the answer. I want to feel like I matter to someone. I want... She stopped. This is insane. What? I want to know what it would feel like to be with someone who sees me. The words hung in the air between us. Too honest, too dangerous. Rachel, I know all the reasons this is impossible, but sitting here with you every week, it's the only time I feel like myself anymore. I should have been smart, should have reminded her about her marriage, her career, all the ways this could go wrong. Instead, I reached across the desk and took her hand. Her skin was soft, warm. She didn't pull away. You matter to me, I said quietly, even though I'm just another rich lady having a midlife crisis. Is that what you think this is? I don't know what this is. Neither do I. But it doesn't feel like a crisis. She turned her hand over, palm up, our fingers intertwined. What does it feel like? she asked. Like the first real thing that's happened to me in years. We sat like that for a while, just holding hands across her desk, listening to the rain. It should have been awkward, but it wasn't. It felt right. I should go, she said finally, but she didn't let go of my hand. Yeah, Tom will be wondering. I know. But neither of us moved. The city lights blurred through the rain-streaked windows. 42 floors up, we might as well have been on another planet. Next week, she said. Next week. She stood up slowly, gathering her things. At the door, she turned back. Jake. Yeah, thank you for seeing me. After she left, I sat in the empty office for a long time, thinking about the way her hand felt in mine, the way she looked when she smiled. I was in deep now, way deeper than I'd ever planned to be. The next Thursday, she wasn't alone. I heard voices as soon as I got off the elevator, Rachel's and someone else, another woman. I started to turn around, but Rachel appeared in the hallway. It's okay, she said. Come on back. There was a younger woman in her office, late 20s, professional, pretty in an ambitious sort of way. She looked me up and down like she was cataloguing details. Jake, this is Alyssa, my assistant. Alyssa stood up, extending a manicured hand. Nice to meet you, she said, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. You too. Alyssa was just finishing up some reports, Rachel said. She'll be leaving soon. But Alyssa didn't seem to be in any hurry. She kept finding reasons to stay, organizing papers, checking her phone, asking Rachel questions about tomorrow's schedule. I went about my cleaning, hyper-aware of being watched. Every time I looked up, Alyssa was studying me, or studying Rachel, or both. Finally, after what felt like hours, she packed up her laptop. I'll see you in the morning, Rachel, she said. Don't stay too late. When she reached the door, she paused. Nice meeting you, Jake. I'm sure I'll see you around. There was something in her tone I didn't like, but she left, and Rachel and I were alone again. Sorry about that, Rachel said once the elevator doors closed. She's been working late all week. She seems observant. Rachel laughed, but it sounded nervous. That's one way to put it. I made coffee, but the easy feeling from last week was gone. Someone else knowing about our Thursday nights changed things, made them feel less like a secret and more like a risk. She won't say anything, Rachel said, like she was reading my mind. Are you sure? Alyssa's ambitious, but she's not malicious, and she depends on me for her career. I wanted to believe her, but I'd seen the way Alyssa looked at us, like she was filing information away for later use. What if she does say something? Rachel was quiet for a moment. Then I'll deal with it. But I could hear the uncertainty in her voice. We talked for a while, but the conversation felt forced, like we were both thinking about other things. When I left that night, Rachel seemed distant, worried. I spent the week wondering if I'd see her again, if Alyssa had said something to make her realize how risky this was. But Thursday night, she was there, and this time she was alone. No Alyssa tonight, I asked. I sent her home early. Something in her voice made me look at her more carefully. She seemed different, nervous, but also determined. Everything okay? I need to tell you something. My stomach dropped. Tom's been asking questions about why I'm working so late. He called the office Tuesday night at 11, and I didn't answer because I was... You were what? I was thinking about you. The words hit me like a punch to the chest. Rachel. He's suspicious. About the late nights, about... I don't know. He just is. Maybe you should stop coming in so late. I don't want to stop. She said it so quietly, I almost missed it. What? I don't want to stop seeing you. These Thursday nights, They're the only time I feel alive anymore. I stared at her. The careful, professional woman I'd first met was gone. In her place was someone raw, honest, desperate. This is dangerous, I said. I know. If he finds out, I know. Your job, your marriage, I know. She stood up, started pacing. I know all of that, but I can't. I can't go back to the way things were, pretending I don't exist, pretending this doesn't matter. She stopped in front of me, close enough that I could smell her perfume. Tell me you feel it too, she said. Tell me I'm not crazy. I should have lied, should have told her it was just friendship, just coffee and conversation between two lonely people. Instead, I stood up and cupped her face in my hands. You're not crazy. And then I kissed her. It was soft at first, tentative, like we were both afraid the other might pull away. But she didn't pull away. She melted into me, her hands fisting in my shirt, pulling me closer. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. Oh, God, she whispered. Yeah, we shouldn't have. No, but she was still in my arms, still looking at me like I was the only solid thing in her world. That's when we heard it. The soft ding of the elevator. We sprang apart like we'd been burned. Rachel smoothed down her hair, straightened her blouse. I grabbed my cleaning supplies, trying to look like I'd been working. Footsteps in the hallway, getting closer. And then Alyssa appeared in the doorway. Her eyes went from me to Rachel and back again. Taking in Rachel's flushed face, my obvious nervousness, the way we were standing too far apart to be natural. Sorry, she said, but she didn't sound sorry. I forgot my phone charger. She walked to her desk, moving slowly, deliberately, like she was giving herself time to see everything. Working late again, I see, she said to Rachel, just finishing up some reports. Alyssa found her charger, wound it up carefully. You've been working a lot of late nights lately. End of quarter. You know how it is. I do. Alyssa's smile was sharp. Well, don't let me interrupt. I'll see you in the morning. She left, but the damage was done. She'd seen something. Maybe not everything, but enough. Rachel sank into her chair, face pale. She knows, she whispered. You don't know that. Did you see the way she looked at us? She knows. I wanted to argue, but she was probably right. Alyssa was smart, ambitious, and now she had something on her boss that could either protect her job or destroy Rachel's career. What do we do? I asked. Rachel was quiet for a long time. I don't know, she said finally. I really don't know. I cleaned the rest of the floor in silence, both of us pretending to be focused on work. But all I could think about was the kiss, the way she felt in my arms, the way she looked when she asked me to tell her she wasn't crazy. When I finished, she was still sitting at her desk, staring out at the city lights. Rachel. Yeah? Whatever happens, I don't regret it. She looked up at me then. Eyes bright with tears, she was trying not to cry. Neither do I. But as I rode the elevator down that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change, that we'd crossed a line we couldn't uncross, and someone was watching from the other side. Some secrets are too big to keep, and some people are too dangerous to trust with them. I had a feeling we were about to find out which category Alyssa fell into. The week passed slowly. Every day I expected my phone to ring, my supervisor telling me I was being reassigned, or worse. But nothing happened. Thursday came again, and I found myself standing outside the Meridian Tower at 10 p.m., wondering if I should go up, wondering if she'd even be there. In the end, I couldn't stay away. The elevator ride to the 42nd floor felt longer than usual. When the doors opened, the hallway was dark except for one light, Rachel's office. She was there, but she wasn't working. She was just sitting in her chair, staring out at the rain that had started to fall again. "Hey," I said from the doorway. She turned, and the smile that spread across her face made my chest tight. "Hey, thought you might not be here tonight. Thought you might not come up." We looked at each other across the space between us. So much had changed since last week. So much was different now. "Any word from Melissa?" I asked. "Nothing. She's been normal, professional, but I can feel her watching me. Maybe she didn't see anything. Maybe. But we both knew better. I made coffee out of habit, brought her a cup. When our fingers brushed, neither of us pulled away. "I've been thinking," she said. "About?" "About what you said. About not regretting it." I waited. "I meant it too. I don't regret kissing you. I regret that it took so long. I regret that it's so complicated. But I don't regret the kiss itself." "Good." She laughed softly. "Just good. I've been thinking about it all week." Yeah, about how you felt, how you tasted, about what might have happened if Alyssa hadn't shown up." Her breath caught. "Jake, I know it's dangerous. I know we're risking everything, but I can't stop thinking about you." She stood up slowly, moving around the desk until she was standing in front of me. "What if we got caught? What if we didn't?" She reached up, traced her finger along my jaw. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Of what?" "Of wanting this too much, of ruining everything, of—" I kissed her again, cutting off her words. This time there was no hesitation, no careful testing, just need and want and months of Thursday nights building up to this moment. Her hands tangled in my hair. I pulled her closer, tasting coffee and possibility, and everything I'd been afraid to want. When we broke apart, she was breathing hard against my neck. "We should stop," she said. "Yeah." But neither of us moved. "This is crazy. I know. If Tom finds out, if anyone finds out, I know." She pulled back to look at me. Her lipstick was smudged, her hair messed up. She looked more beautiful than any woman had a right to look. "I don't care," she said suddenly. "I don't care about any of it. For the first time in years, I feel alive, really alive, and I don't want to give that up." "You don't have to, don't I?" Before I could answer, her phone buzzed. A text message. She glanced at it and her face went pale. "Tom?" I asked. She nodded. "He's asking where I am again." "What are you going to tell him?" "The truth, that I'm working late." "Is that the truth?" She looked at me, eyes bright with something that might have been tears or might have been defiance. Part of it. She gathered her things, but slower than usual, like she was reluctant to leave. "Next week?" she asked. "If you want." "I want." At the door, she paused. "Jake?" "Yeah?" "Whatever happens, thank you for making me remember who I am." After she left, I stood in the empty office for a long time, looking out at the city lights and thinking about the choice she was making. The choice we were both making. Some people spend their whole lives playing it safe, following the rules, staying inside the lines. But sometimes the most important moments happen in the spaces between those lines, in the places where safe doesn't exist, and the only choice is to jump and hope someone catches you. I was falling for Rachel Hargrove, had been for weeks now, and she was falling too. The question was whether we'd catch each other or whether we'd both hit the ground. All I knew was that next Thursday, I'd be back on that elevator, riding up to the 42nd floor. Because some risks are worth taking, and some women are worth falling for.